The night sky over New Arcadia shimmered with 1,000 neon lights, but none could outshine the silver glow of the twin moons. Beneath that cosmic canopy, Isaac Cross leaned against the rusted railing of his small balcony, his thoughts tangled in the past. 5 years had passed since the invasion. 5 years since the war ended. 5 years since she left. Her name still echoed in his mind like a battle cry, Vaela. She had saved his life more times than he could count, but when the dust of war settled, she had vanished without a word. No goodbyes, no promises, just gone. The memory of her violet eyes, her silver-marked skin, the way her voice rumbled like distant thunder, it haunted him more than any war did. The world moved on. He did too, in a way. But in the deep recesses of his heart, he knew he had never stopped waiting. Then the sky burned. A flare of blue fire streaked through the night, splitting the heavens apart like an open wound. It wasn't a meteor. Isaac knew better. The old wars had taught him the difference between cosmic debris and something deliberately descending. And this was the latter. His heart pounded. Could it be? The impact shook the earth, sending tremors rippling through the city. Alarms blared in the distance. But Isaac was already running, sprinting through the darkened streets toward the crater outside the city limits. Others ran in the opposite direction, fleeing in panic. He didn't care. He had to know. By the time he reached the edge of the impact site, his lungs were burning. A metallic pod lay buried in the center of the smoldering crater, steam hissing from its fractured surface. A deep hum vibrated through the air as the hatch released, and the figure within stepped forward. Isaac's breath caught. Vaela. She was clad in battle-worn armor, sleek and imposing, the sigils of her people glowing faintly along her arms. Her silver hair was longer now, cascading over her shoulders like liquid light. But her eyes, those fierce, violet eyes, locked onto him with an intensity that made his soul tremble. Isaac, she murmured, voice softer than he remembered. He swallowed hard. Took you long enough? A ghost of a smirk touched her lips. Then, without another word, she closed the distance between them and crushed him into an embrace. The scent of ozone and stardust clung to her, and he realized she was shaking. I had no choice, she whispered against his ear. But I swore I'd come back. The truth behind her return. They sat by a flickering fire in the ruins of an old supply bunker, the distant hum of the city fading into the wind. Vaela's fingers traced the edge of a worn blade strapped to her thigh, her expression unreadable. I left to protect you, she finally admitted. My people, they don't allow attachments. They don't allow love. Isaac clenched his fists. That's a hell of a reason to disappear. I defied the council once by staying here to fight in your war, she said, her gaze heavy with old wounds. When it was over, they summoned me back. Gave me a choice. Renounce you or be exiled. He stared at her, disbelief warring with anger. And you left? I thought I was doing the right thing. Her voice cracked. But I was wrong. The years without you were unbearable. So, I made a new choice. Isaac narrowed his eyes. Vaela, what did you do? She hesitated. Then, her fingers pulled the collar of her armor aside, revealing an intricate symbol burned into her skin, a mark of exile. Isaac inhaled sharply. You left your people for me? Vaela nodded. They won't stop hunting me. I betrayed them. But I'd rather spend a lifetime on the run with you than an eternity without you. A slow, fierce warmth spread through his chest. He reached out, brushing his fingers against her cheek. You stubborn, reckless, incredible woman. A smile ghosted her lips. That's why you love me. Before he could respond, a sudden, piercing shriek echoed in the night. The hunt begins. The air shimmered. Vaela was already on her feet, her blaster drawn, eyes scanning the dark. Isaac followed her gaze. Figures materialized from the shadows, tall and draped in war cloaks, their bodies adorned with the same glowing sigils as hers. "They found me faster than I expected," she muttered. "We need to move." Isaac grabbed a rifle from the bunker's stash. "Guess they don't take betrayal lightly?" Vaela's smirk was all fangs. "Not at all." The first assailant lunged. Vaela moved like lightning, twisting around to strike and driving her blade into his side. Isaac took a shot, dropping another before he could react. The night erupted into chaos. Bolts of energy screamed through the air, bodies collided, metal against metal, flesh against fire. Isaac barely kept up. Vaela was a blur of destruction, her movements precise, deadly, beautiful. He had seen her fight before, but this was different. This was personal. She wasn't just fighting for survival. She was fighting for them. One of the warriors managed to catch her off guard, slamming her into the dirt. Isaac's heart lurched. Without thinking, he threw himself forward, tackling the enemy off her, grappling in the dust and fire. A blade flashed. Pain seared his side, but he didn't stop. With a desperate, final blow, he took the warrior down. Vaela was beside him in an instant, pulling him up, her expression frantic. "You're hurt." Isaac grimaced. "Just a scratch." She didn't look convinced, but there was no time to argue. More figures were closing in. They had to run. A future worth fighting for. They barely escaped, disappearing into the winding tunnels beneath the city. Hours passed in breathless silence. Their only company, the dim flicker of ancient lights. When they finally stopped, Vaela pressed her forehead against his. "I won't let them take me." Isaac exhaled shakily. "They won't. I'm not letting you go again." Her fingers curled into his shirt, gripping tightly, as if anchoring herself. "Then we fight? Together." He smiled. Together? It wasn't the end of the battle. Not even close. But as long as they had each other, as long as they were willing to fight for this fragile, stubborn love, there was hope. And sometimes hope was all they needed. The war wasn't over, and neither was their story. But this time, they faced it side by side, against the stars, against fate, and against the wrath of an empire that refused to let go. Their battle had just begun.